Today I'll be exploring the topic of the self-made millionaire. This is the kind of person that has been able to create abundance for themselves out of nothing. And I want to turn the tables on this kind of thinking, because if one could be a self-made millionaire and pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, wouldn't that make the case that someone has the power to make themselves poor? That we could say that the poor are self-made? I think there's some argument and validity to manufactured suffering. So stick around and let's see what we can learn about this kind of duality. That the self-made millionaire is the self-made everything, and everything is a return to sender. Stick around. You have to tread lightly around the word poverty and poor and lacking. Because I do believe that there are people on the planet who are convinced that they are limited. And to transcend a belief would be to connect to a different kind of knowledge. One where you realize that you live in a universe that does not run out. But the financial industry builds its model on saving for retirement, having a nest egg, an emergency fund. You see, if we didn't have these kinds of teachings out there, emergency funds, enough savings, we wouldn't have financial advisors. We wouldn't have Dave Ramsey type people and these kinds of things if there weren't people who were afraid to be lavish, to be generous, to shoot their wad and to spend their entire fortune. So the marketing strategy of the retirement industry is fear. And so is the entire marketing strategy of spiritual teaching, that you can overcome fear. And fear is the mind, that you can actually discipline your mind, because the mind is the one that labels whether or not you have enough or not enough. But we miss is that we assume we know when we're going to die. All of our projections, if you have a 3-month emergency fund, you have just assumed you're going to live to see tomorrow. And you're rolling the dice on that being the case. But I think that's cruel. No one's ever been to tomorrow. No one's ever been to the future. And the entire industry is based on a projection. And so we operate by faith, and we don't even know it. If you think you have an emergency fund You are assuming you're going to live long enough to use it. But you see, we don't have that knowledge. So one would say it's perfectly safe to shoot your wad. And they can say, well, statistically you're going to live that long. That's still no guarantee. Until you realize that everything is manufactured by the mind. The mind is the labeling system that declares success or failure. The mind is the labeling system that says, oh, you have enough or you don't have enough. And it's as arbitrary as anything because you don't know the exact time you're going to die. Unless you plan to pull the trigger. But even so, you might die of natural causes before you shoot yourself in the head. So you see, you're playing this game with a non-existent time period called the future. And the mind loves that. And so you have to be very careful, because this is a sensitive topic. To assume or to point out that suffering is manufactured. And manufacture means manufactum in Latin, which means handmade. So this is handmade forgery, what we're talking about here. That it's perfectly okay to congratulate somebody for being a self-made millionaire. You pulled yourself out of debt. You came out of it, and now you've got surplus. Congratulations. Now you have more than you need. You went from not having enough to more than you need. And if we examine the mind, and you become time affluent like me, I'm time affluent, which means time stands still. When you discipline the mind, time stands still. But the mind still wants to label it. If you have time affluency, the mind can say, you have too much time on your hands. Now you got overage. And if you start manufacturing stuff to do, you are now disciplined by the mind, by the machine. And if you see time as whizzing by and you can't get anything done, you are now following this machine, manufacturing these perceptions. See, this is the key. The mind is manufacturing perceptions of time and supply, playing this game with itself, assuming you're going to live a certain amount of time. But what if you give up the assumptions? What if you actually do live forever, or you don't have any time left? You see, both of those are synonymous if you're guided by a different way of navigating the world. So the mind is about starting and stopping, ending and beginning. And this is how we're governed. We are following a system that is finite. And it feels like you're gambling. It feels like the time is running out or you got a lot. What if you just drop all the linear? Then you appear like a nutcase because you can spend everything you have. You can give lavishly. You can live with a zero balance. You can not be afraid of the future because no one's ever been there. You've come to the realization that you've never been to the future. And you never will be. and how much of our lives are based on this notion. See, many people have become awake to the linear function of the mind and realize that that's not what's guiding us. That's a forgery of time running out, supply running dry. And to overcome it would be basically to see through its nonsense. But to see through its nonsense, you must understand that every spiritual teacher that you may have ever listened to is teaching you to pay attention to your true self. And that if you have a perception that someone can be a self-made anything, self-made millionaire, self-made entrepreneur, self-reliant of any kind, they can also have this power to label themselves poor, lacking, insufficient, and separate. But yet we truly believe ourselves to be these things, so we have to be compassionate. Here's the thing. Suffering is manufactured. But the ego is not ready to hear it. The mind is not ready to see it. So compassion is not you poor thing. It's understanding where you used to be in consciousness. If you have transcended your mind, if you see through the linear mind, you can remember how stuck you used to feel, how mediocre you used to feel, that beliefs feel real. Suffering feels like it's something that happens to you. But what you must understand is that you're involved in a game of ping pong. But the opposing side is a mirror. You hit the ping pong ball into the mirror and it comes back at you at a certain angle. Everything is a return to sender. Even our own manufactured suffering. Even the things we do on accident are intentional. You might consider it a controlled accident. And you get wise to this because then all of it is too good to be true. And you do believe and you do understand the science of entanglement, like the entire universe is linked. There is no independent cause and effect in your immediate vicinity. That what's going on in the farthest regions of the universe is connected to you. And what has gone on in the origins of time is inextricably linked to this moment. And while your death is inevitable, outsmarting yourself is the dumbest thing you can do. You can't outsmart yourself. But here's the thing. I don't think the world is ready to hear that we manufacture our own problems. They would rather continue to believe that somebody can be a self-made millionaire, but that their poverty is accidental. You see, praise and blame are the same thing. You can praise yourself for getting it right, and then you can blame yourself for tripping on the sidewalk. See, we can't ever seem to get this right. We can't ever seem to get the control we're looking for. And we can't seem to understand where credit is due. It's not due at the individual level. Credit is due at a very deep level that no one seems to be able to find. The mind is going to praise and blame. Those are two sides of the same wave. The self-made millionaire and the accidental drug addict? No. None of that makes any sense. I can't explain it. I can't explain how one begins to transcend the mind, because in me, it happened as spontaneously as a blooming flower. I never sought to know this stuff. I never sought to overcome my mind. And I'm not saying I have, because I sit quietly a lot in this idea that time stands still, and these insights come to me. Again, it feels like I am the neutral observer, where the secrets of the universe are dictated in the silence. They're encoded in your own DNA. I do believe we all have these insights. And that we have the intelligence to understand the part of our mind that is blind. Compassion is simply just understanding that some people don't understand their own doing. Either accidentally, unintentionally, whatever. We do not understand. Accidental or intentional, it's the same. Poor or rich, it's the same. Alan Watts is always talking about how the rich make the poor who they are, and the poor make the rich who they are. No matter what you have as us versus them, if you try to eliminate them and just make it us, the them will be like an infestation that will emerge from within. The weeds will grow from within. And part of the word manifestation means caught in the act. And you have to understand that you can catch yourself in the act of labeling, blaming, praising, criticizing, and believing that life is happening to you in some sinister thing where you don't see that you're hitting the ping pong ball to the mirror. And everything is returned to sender. The mind can't see that because it's too in the weeds. The perception is like a flea on a dog. You can't see the bigger picture. But somehow a human being can sense this. How? By being still. And I've been still for a long time now. And I can still see insights that are not linear or logical. But my mind still insists on some of these old things. Look, when you begin to realize and pay attention to yourself that you did it, it doesn't mean you beat yourself up. It means you become detached from all of that crap. And you are just this invisible channel through which the universe is expanding. If you think of a human being, think of the universe as a firework that went off 13 billion years ago. And if you've ever seen a firework on the 4th of July, it's this spray. And then it opens and it has little tentacles. You are the tentacle of a 13 billion year old process that was never untethered from the Big Bang. And that's difficult for us to understand. Because it means that everything that happened can't be erased. That there's nothing inessential about the universe. And that the universe itself is self-made. So-called problems and all. That is a big pill to swallow. But if you're ready to swallow something like that, if you're really ready to understand that it's just one confusing itself in its own manyness, you can come back to the sender. You can come back to the center and detach from all of the extremities that appear as moving entities separate from that which is simply source. So yes, the universe is self-made, and so are you. And when you realize the mind is a labeling system that isn't true, it's manufactured forgery, then the game becomes much different. It becomes more like playing than it is anything serious. Because let's face it, the universe birthed itself, and the universe can kill itself. Pull the plug. Whether it be by suicide, natural causes, cancer, disease, murder, you name it. What are you going to do when there's only one source? But no one will sit here and listen to someone they don't know saying it's your fault. In so many ways, it's your fault. And that life isn't happening to you, nor are you a victim of it. You are a self-made mystery. And if I could be a self-made millionaire, I can be a self-made anything, even a self-made sufferer. So think about those things. My name is Ryan. I hope these insights have opened your mind, blown your mind to a new kind of way of thinking that transcends the mind and connects to the sender, that which is expressing itself through us. Please check out my blog, mymorningmotivator.com, or one of my books on Amazon. Thanks for watching.